Well, your banged up Bucs keep finding ways to win. And that's really the main story today. We're going to talk about injury news. We're going to talk about a game recap and even more coming up here on Bucs Bonus.
Live from the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida, the home of News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. This is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now.
Welcome to the Stream Center here for another episode of Bucs Bonus. I'm your host, Garrett Phillips. Aileen Hnatiuk, I know she wasn't in the cold open for some reason, but she is here in studio with us today, along with, of course, Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report. Guys, it's getting to be kind of, I don't want to say monotonous or boring, but it's kind of the same story now. 3 weeks in a row, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers go into, or well, in this case, host an opponent, and they're injured, they are battered, they are bruised up and beaten, and yet still find a way to win in dramatic fashion. Your Bucs are now 3-0 after that win against the Jets. Scott, Aileen, I mean, listen, I think everybody's mind, right, is thinking, how are they doing this?
Well, they're the Tampa Bay Clutchineers, really. And when you've got Baker Mayfield, captain, comeback, the mayor of Clutchville, whatever you want to call him, at the helm, I don't know. I don't feel too concerned anymore because I've just seen this guy do it week after week after week now. And I think it's a resiliency that this team has this year. You look back at last year, they couldn't win in primetime. They're winning in primetime this year. They couldn't win close games. I think they were like 1-5 or 1-6 in games that were decided by a touchdown or less last year. This year they're 3-0. It's been entertaining. It's caused people to maybe have to reach for the high blood pressure medicine a little bit, Aileen, but it's entertaining nonetheless. They've been some hard-fought games and, more importantly, some hard-fought wins by the Clutchineers.
Yeah, these games have been nothing short of thrilling. And it's funny, too, because Baker said in week 2, hey, next week we're going to try to win a little easier for you guys. And in fact, they made it even worse as the clock ran out. My mother, I keep saying, she texts me every game and is like, I have more gray hair, even more gray hair. It's so funny. I told head coach Todd Bowles that, and he was like, well, she's going to get like me soon, have no hair. So he was funny about that in our Bucs with Bowles interview, which you guys can watch online at WFLA.com. But you mentioned that they're winning these games. And we talked about this last week too. They were losing these close games all year last year. It was so frustrating, right? And now they're on the other side of this, and I think that is so huge. And really what makes a good team good is that you do win those close games. I think, didn't Drew Brees make a comment on social? You guys saw he made like a comment on social media earlier, and remind me what
he said. Basically, the only difference between the Bucs and the Saints is that the Bucs have managed to make a few plays at the end of games,
which is why they are a good team. Now, I'm thinking in my head too, because I've met him before when I was like covering the Saints. I'm like, Drew, like, are you just saying this because you know better, dude? Like, you were one of the best. You're one of the best athletes to ever do it, and you're saying that. Come on, you know better. Like, that's why what makes a good team. A good team is when you win those tight games.
Yeah, he's just used to seeing his Saints rule the NFC South, and ever since the Bucs beat him in his last game, he threw an interception to Mike Edwards on his last NFL pass, right, in that NFC divisional playoff game in 2020 while the Bucs were en route to the Super Bowl. So he's still a little frosty about that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Scott, you mentioned the heart rate medication, going back to those close wins. I mean, listen, it's 3 weeks in a row now. I have an Apple Watch. I wear it, not to do any branding or anything, but it gives you that kind of heart monitoring. I continuously, this is the 3rd week in a row where I have gotten, hey, maybe you need to calm down with whatever you're doing right now. You're not really moving. These guys are, I might not make it to the end of the season if this is how it's going to go.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. Graham Barton said as he walked out of the tunnel into the locker room after the game, he turned to all the media, he goes, cardiac Bucs, huh?
Yeah.
But this is awesome. This is fun. They're the most fun team to watch in the NFL right now. They're the most fun team to watch, and they've got a lot going for them besides all the injuries.
Right. And which, we talk about how well they are doing, and they're 3-0. It's come at a quite a cost, right? You're now missing Cody Mauch, you're missing Luke Gedeke. Now we've gotten word that Mike Evans is going to miss a couple of weeks, somewhere between 2 to 4, depending on the reports out there. Hopefully Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin are coming back either this week or next week. but they've really been playing without a lot of their star power, and they're managing to win games. Is that going to continue? I know they have a big test coming up this week with the Eagles. How are they going to kind of survive this onslaught of injuries that seems to get worse every week?
It's going to be a challenge, right? Because if you go back to last year when the Bucs didn't have Mike and Chris in those games after that Monday night massacre at the hands of the Baltimore Ravens, literally and figuratively, because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were both injured in that game, the Bucs didn't fare well. They lost those games until after the bye week when at least Mike Evans was able to come back and beat the Giants, and then they went on a tear down the stretch to make up for some lost time and win the NFC South Division once again right at the very end of the season. So hopefully the Bucs can do better this go around. Evans is expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks worth of action. The good news is the team isn't putting him in an injured reserve. That would automatically mean he's out for 4 games. So there is hope that maybe after the Eagles game and the Seahawks game, maybe he's in play for the 49ers. Maybe he misses the 49ers game. Maybe he's in play for Monday night against the Lions. They looked really good against the Ravens on Monday Night Football. But it's not, uncharted territory for Josh Grizzard. He wasn't calling the plays last year, Aileen, but at least he was in the booth helping Liam Cohen navigate how to play without your star receivers. And I will say, this team didn't have Emeka Egbuka last year.
Right.
And Sterling Shepard is playing better this year than he played last year. So between those guys and Rashad White and Bucky Irving and Kate Otten, they have enough weapons still at this point in time, plus they have Tez Johnson, to maybe weather this storm. Instead of going 0-4 down that awful slide at midseason, maybe they split these games. Maybe go 2-2, and that would still put the Buccaneers at 5-2. And hopefully Mike Evans return in a few weeks.
Right. And I'm not going to say I think they win the next, 4 games in a row, and maybe they will, maybe they won't, maybe they go 2-2. But I do think we have to have some confidence in them, right? Like I do, and they've shown us that they are winning these games without their star players, and obviously they're going to have some work to do in the trenches, and they're making it work. And we talked week 1, this is why the Bucs have such a strong practice squad, right? This is why they have so many veterans on the P squad to bring these guys up in times like this. So I have faith that they're going to figure it out. You mentioned Josh Grizzard. He was a part of making things work last season when there were injuries, so he's familiar with it. Just echoing everything you said, Scott. I mean, you hit the. I'm so bad with saying his head on the.
You hit the nail
on the head. I always say the head on the nail. Yeah, spot on, dude.
Yeah, I mean, so we are talking about, obviously, fantastic game with the Jets. It kind of was a little closer than it needed to be, thanks to some special teams miscues, let's put it that way. Hopefully, right, with the Eagles, you're not going to have that. We have this, defending Super Bowl champions. They're coming to our building. They're coming in a day earlier to try and acclimate to the weather. I saw that report.
LOL.
Good luck with that.
Which, yeah, exactly.
Not that I broke that news, but Scott, wasn't I like the first one to quote tweet it? Come on, give me some.
Yeah.
Give me some.
No,
Thank
you were.
Thank you. Come on.
And I'll say this.
Yeah.
I've been here for 30 years, and I don't know how many days that is.
Yeah.
But I'm not used to the heat.
Still not
humidity.
used to the heat, right?
Right. So I don't know it might even backfire on the Eagles. If they're going to spend all day out in the heat on Saturday, just walking around, getting used to it, they might be tired and worn out by the time they play the game on Sunday. So it might backfire.
And they're in a similar situation. I think last year, correct me if I'm wrong, what week did we play the Eagles last year? I think was week 4. Yep. Right. I was at that game, a fantastic game where the Bucs, I mean, really they blew the Eagles out. And in fact, I think the Eagles, after that game, went on the run, right? They didn't lose another game until until they haven't lost another game since then.
I think they're 1-3 with the last 4 times they've
1-3, 1-4 against the Bucs.
Like
so the good news for Tampa Bay, right, is yes, they have injuries. But as you mentioned, they still have a very deep roster of playmakers on the offense. Your defense is still finding ways to be maybe
defense is playing better too this year than it was last year. And I think that gives me some hope that they're not going to go on some 4-game slide like they have over the past 2 years. This defense, we saw the takeaways, 2 of them, including a pick 6 from Jamel Dean, who had that on their bingo card, right?
4 sacks.
But 4 sacks.
Come on.
Yeah, they're playing a lot better on defense.
And for the Eagles, right, other than a pretty good offensive performance against what we think might be maybe the worst defense in the league with the Cowboys in week 1, they haven't looked exactly like they're world beaters. It took another, again, I think it was 2 blocked field goals in their game.
2 blocked field goals,
Yes, against LA, for them to barely win that game essentially at the end there. So, there's some hope. And again, if
Right.
there's any coach in the league that has given Jalen Hurts more problems than Todd Bowles, I would love to know about it. Because he every time he plays Jalen Hurts is just having a bad day back there.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, the
this
only
comes
thing
down
that
to the
scares me a
line,
little bit,
too.
Eileen, is A.J. Brown hasn't played in the last 2 games. He's their star receiver in Philly. And, he could be a difference maker on Sunday for the Eagles. He's that big play guy that Jalen Hurts hasn't had in that playoff game where the Bucs trounced them in the wild card round a couple years ago. And also in week 4, he wasn't available. So, but at the same time, again, Tampa Bay's defense is playing better. Their secondary is healthy this year where it wasn't last year. So maybe that's a push.
Speaking of push, the tush push, it's something that I'm sure we're going to have to talk about a lot for this game. And we're going to preview a bit more about this game, as well as give a bit more of a deep dive into the injury situation for the Bucs over this next couple of weeks when we come back from this break. Welcome back into the Stream Center for Bucs Bonus. Garrett Phillips here with Aileen Hnatiuk, and of course, Scott Reynolds from Pewter Report. Guys, we just started to talk a little bit about that Eagles game that's coming up this Sunday, 1 o'clock here in Ray J, here in Tampa. Talk about that tush push, right? Because we just kind of had that little segue. And, it's a play that has certainly come under, let's call it some heat. Let's call it some controversy over the off season and now into the regular season about how it's officiated, how it's run, if it's even a football play. But we talk about the tush push, and if I remember correctly, right, the most successful team at stopping the tush push the past couple of years has been your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, Vita Vea has been at the heart of that. And there's no Kalijah Kancey this week. Obviously, he's out for the year in injured reserve with that pectoral injury, but maybe that's okay. He's 280 pounds. He's a light body up there. The Bucs actually have added some beef to their roster in the form of Elijah Simpson, who they signed off the Cardinals practice squad, 6'1", 345 pounds. Another big guy. They've got Jason Jones on the practice squad, 6'6", 335 pounds. They also added Desmond Watson back to their practice squad as well. And I'm not sure where he's at, but less than 460 pounds, Eileen, maybe closer to 400, but we might see a practice squad elevation for the Buccaneers to bring Desmond Watson up, maybe to stop the tush push. That's what Bucs fans have kind of fantasized about since the former Gator defensive tackle signed with this team after the draft.
And we'll finally get to see him practice.
Yeah.
Because he did not practice all training camp. And it's truly the most intriguing headline, right? And it was one of the most during training camp too, because everyone was like, what is going on? Why is he not practicing? Tons of stuff on social media, but finally he has met the requirements and we'll see him practice, and it's going to be really exciting. He's obviously a fan favorite, especially here in Tampa Bay, being Gator alum. But you wonder if he goes in and becomes elevated and helps with that tush push situation. But I don't want to make any assumptions. You know what they say about that saying. I know that saying. You make a
Yeah,
I like my job. We can't say that on here, right?
No, I mean, we talk, of course. It's a great story, Desmond Watson, especially now that he is back on the practice squad, has a chance now to really possibly make an impact with the team eventually. Todd Bowles,
Plant City native, right?
Todd Bowles himself said that he doesn't, they brought him in because he's a football player, not to try and just stop a tush push, and that they're going to give him time because he's, this is the first time, this week will be the first time he's gotten to practice with the team. So, maybe in a couple of weeks we'll get to see him on the field, especially with how the injury situation has been on both sides of the ball and the offensive line. Speaking about the injuries and speaking about the offensive line, we've got a new depth chart today, which has some major changes, as you have expected and as you have seen. Now, the depth chart has Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin back on it. Who knows if they're playing today or today, this week. But it has, Graham Barton back at center. It's got Elijah Klein and Charlie Heck now on the right side of the line. If Tristan Wirfs plays, right, and he's back at the left tackle, is that what we're expecting?
Huge.
Are we expecting that, Bredesen goes back to guard, Barton goes back to center, and they roll with Charlie Heck and Elijah Klein on the right side?
Either that or maybe they try Dirty Dan Feeney, the new guy they brought in, 31-year-old veteran off of the Bills practice squad. He's got a mullet, which is really cool. We know Jason Light likes offensive linemen with wild hair, going back to Ryan Jensen, Alex
Mustaches.
Kappa. Yeah. Luke Gedeke with the 70s stash, going on. And of course, Cody Malk, another long-haired ginger. So Dan Feeney fits in with the mullet.
I like the new name.
And we'll see how he progresses. And he was active for the last game, and maybe he gets to start over Elijah Klein. Klein was hanging on for dear life against Quinton Williams because he's a hell of a defensive tackle. And of course, I think you might want somebody with some more size and experience going up against the likes of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. The Eagles' defensive tackles are no joke. There was really one Jets defensive tackle they had to worry about last week. This week, there's multiple because they've got a stacked defensive line. So I'd be surprised if Elijah Klein does get the start in this game. But having that left side of the line, Aileen, kind of go back to normal. If Tristan Wirfs plays as we hope, you'd have the strength of the offensive line be intact with Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, Ben Bredesen at left guard, and then Graham Barton at center.
Yeah, I think this game goes down to the wire. I think the cardiac Bucs do the same thing again, and it's going to go down to the final minutes, and it'll come down to not turning the ball over, fundamentals, simple things, because these are both really talented teams, and they're fighting for the first spot in the NFC right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are three.
They're both 3-0.
There are three 3-0 teams. It's the Eagles, the Bucs, and the 49ers who managed to win despite their injury luck. I mean, really, if you talk about the two teams that are an impressive 3-0, it's your Bucs because of the injuries, and it's the San Francisco 49ers. So whichever one of these two teams comes out of Sunday with the W and comes out 4-0, at least is keeping pace with the 49ers and maybe even jumping over them depending on how their game goes. Yeah, it's a very important game. And as you mentioned, Scott, Elijah Klein was kind of holding on for dear life, holding being the operative term here, because between him and Luke Haggard, I think that there were like 4 holding calls between the two of them in the first half. It was, let's say, not their finest moment as football players on the field.
Wasn't it 5 of 13?
It was
Todd
crazy.
Bowles said, didn't he say something like that? 5 of the 13 were like
there were
calls.
14 overall penalties in the game. The offensive line had 7 of them.
Yeah.
Oof.
Hey, shout out Charlie Heck. No penalties in the game. He was the only offensive lineman out of all of them that didn't get flagged. So he gets the gold star on the fridge. But listen, you hope that the penalties are cut way down. That officiating crew, if we can just be honest, was shameful. That was ridiculous.
No,
I think there were 12 penalties called between both teams, Aileen, in the first 18 plays of the game. That was bad officiating.
Yeah, I didn't like a few calls there. I don't think the Bucs did either, but we'll keep it there so we can keep doing this show every week.
Aileen, a couple of times now in the day, have really kind of towed the line on what you're allowed to say.
Channeling the fans' anger, Aileen. I love it.
Listen, I'm just one with the fans. I'm a fan myself. Y'all know I'm hometown girl from north of Tampa.
That's right.
Got a little love for the Bucs.
So we're going to talk a little bit more, too, of course, about the Eagles game. But going back to the Jets game for a moment, I want to point out one of my favorite things that I saw. Actually came today. It came after the game. You guys, have you seen the NFL? They tweeted out their clip of Baker, who was mic'd up for this game. And I think he said this in the press conference as well, but you get the perfect front row seat version of it when he confronts Emeka Egbuka after the fantastic sideline one-handed grab. And when after that drive, he goes over onto the bench and he goes up to Emeka and he says, "Hey, 2 hands next time. Stop disrespecting my passes with these one-handed catches." Baker and Emeka, if you talk about how impressive a player on offense, who was the most impressive player on offense? Is it Baker Mayfield? Is it Emeka Egbuka? Because I feel like it's got to be one of those two guys.
It's both. I think they share that because one guy's got to throw it, the other guy's got to catch it, right, to make them both look good. It's a great relationship that it was established early on in the OTAs. It continued in training camp. And this really was no surprise. Aileen and I, we were out there every day at training camp looking at Emeka Egbuka saying, pinch me, is this real? Is this guy really a rookie? No, he looks like a seasoned veteran. He looks like a Pro Bowler. And sure enough, he's leading the team in touchdowns and receiving yards and catches, and he's only a rookie. but he is on pace to win Offensive Rookie of the Year if this torrid pace continues.
And Bowles said, we don't even treat him like he's a rookie. This is what we expect from him because this is what he shows week in and week out in practice, in games. And you talk about the chemistry between Baker and Emeka. It's really, really cool. And you ask, who are you more impressed by? It's hard because it's like Baker's doing this without, some of his stars now with Mike gone and the shuffled offensive line the last few games. And then you have Emeka, who's a freaking rookie, making these plays, 2 touchdowns in his first game as a rookie. It's crazy. So both are impressive, but in different ways. Yeah. That's a hard question, Garrett. Garrett Phillips. All right, how about this, Garrett? What do you think?
I think, are we talking about offense or just most impressive player,
who's more impressive?
Period?
No, Baker or Emeka, since you did to Scott and I. We're going to do it right. Who do you think's more impressive?
Putting you on the spot.
They're listening,
You're
too.
right. You're right. I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. And the reason I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield is because, listen, Emeka has had a very fantastic start to his rookie season. But he doesn't have to deal with the offensive line in front of him every snap. He doesn't have to deal with all 11 defenders who are coming for his head every snap, right? He's got to deal with the one guy who's covering him. Baker has, really, I thought, showed an elevation to his game that I really personally wasn't expecting. When I went into the season, as a Bucs fan, I'm thinking, listen, I love Baker Mayfield as a guy, as a player. But
I have to disagree.
I just had Tom Brady, who was so careful with everything, and Baker can be more of a gunslinger, more of that kind of Brett Favre-esque, sling it and hope for the best type situation. He really, other than the first game, I think the first game he kind of had a few where he got away from him. But these past 2 games, he has been so mature and careful with the ball behind an offensive line that I thought might doom him, frankly, as a fan, just worrying about it. So I just thought it's been an incredibly impressive start to the season. And I think that, not enough people are talking about Baker Mayfield in the upper echelon of guys where I think he really deserves to be in that top 5-6 range.
Yeah.
He's getting there.
Yeah, I think, right, Scott, I was about to say too, I think so too. You're starting to see it more and more, and it's very deserving. But Garrett, I have to disagree with you, and I'm going to say this. I did a podcast, was it last? No, it was my first year when he came in, Baker and I both first year in Tampa. I did something with Charlotte, a station in Charlotte, and I was on the radio, and they asked me, they were like, because we were playing Carolina, and they said, is Baker the answer for the Bucs right now? And I was like, I'll be honest, I think so. I do. I think he is. I think he is the next.
You called it.
The next chunk of years, I think he is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback the next handful of years. And they were like, oh, because again, it's validating you, Garrett. A lot of people thought the same thing as you, but there was something that it just felt right. This was his situation. This was like the right situation for him. It just all felt like it was meant to be, and clearly it is because they're 3-0 right now.
And frankly, I'm happy that is the case because, man, you might argue that there are 4 or 5 guys in the league that are going to play the position better, but you can't argue there is not a guy in this league who you want leading the team
with more passion and fire and grit.
He's the igniter of this offense.
He is.
It's so fantastic. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, as well as we're going to get you guys his final predictions. I'm going to nail it down for this Eagles game.
Whoa.
When we come back right after this. Welcome back to Bucs Bonus here in the Stream Center. Of course, your official Bucs station. I'm here with Aileen Hnatiuk and Scott Reynolds. Aileen, Scott, listen, let's get to it. Let's get down to it. Eagles, Sunday, 1 o'clock. It's going to be hot. The heat index is in the hundreds or something like that. I don't remember. I'm not a meteorologist.
Well, apparently the Eagles are super prepared. They're coming in
That extra day is going to make the big difference.
They're going to get trolled so hard, by the way, at the game. There are going to be signs everywhere about that. Anyways.
I just need to know. I'm going to need some official predictions right now. Are the Bucs going to be 4-0 after Sunday?
I don't think so. I think they can be. I hope they are for the fans' sake out there and their own sake. But this is an Eagles team that I think is going to be coming down here for some revenge. The last 2 trips to Tampa have gone miserably for them. And I want to say that not having Mike Evans in this one is going to hurt a little bit. He did play in that game last year against the Eagles. He's not going to be there this week, and A.J. Brown will be there. That's the Eagles' big-time threat at wide receiver, along with Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley. I love how Todd Bowles can scheme against Jalen Hurts. He has made life miserable for him. I'm not saying I don't believe in the Buccaneers, but they're not going to go perfect this year. They're not going to be 17-0. They got to lose some point in time. And Eileen, back in 2002, the Bucs lost to the Eagles during the regular season, then got some revenge in the playoffs and route to their first Super Bowl. So maybe lightning strikes twice here in the 50th year of the Buccaneers.
Okay, listen, I'll go the other way. Okay, go Oppo Taco here. I think everything goes right for the Bucs. I think there aren't any insane calls by the refs. I think Chris Godwin comes back. I think Tristan Wirfs comes back. And I think
no blocked field goals, maybe?
No blocked field goals. I think special teams does their thing. And I think they win. It'll be a close game down to the wire, but I'm gonna go with a win just to make it interesting here with a lot of assumptions.
All right, hey, we'll see head to head. We'll see which one of you comes out
Garrett
on top. Listen,
Garrett.
I'm a Bucs fan. I'm biased. I'm going to say the Bucs are going to win every game that I have to pick. But if there's a game that I'm nervous about, it's this one. I really am. I really want to see them beat the Eagles, mostly because I just really don't like the Eagles as a Bucs fan.
Nobody does.
Thank you guys so much, both Aileen Hnatiuk and, of course, Scott Reynolds. Scott, last thoughts here from Pewter Report. What do you want to say to the fans?
Well, make sure you check us out on pewterreport.com, our website. We've got all the Bucs news and analysis that you might crave. And you can also check us out on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. We've got our Pewter Report podcast 4 times a week, including after the games, as well as a Pewter pregame show prior to kickoff each game day at 9 o'clock a.m. and Pewter Game Day live stream during the game itself.
All right, you heard the man. Go check out pewterreport.com.
Pewter Report is awesome, by the way. I just want to say, I am on y'all the time. Tweets, YouTube. Listen, Scott, I'm glad you don't see my phone because you would think I'm a creep. It's like everything's Pewter Report. They literally just do the absolute best job when it comes to all the updates. Just saying, yeah,
of course. That's going to do it for us here for Aileen Hnatiuk and Scott Reynolds. I am Garrett Phillips here for another edition of Bucs Bonus. We'll be back with you guys next week to hopefully talk about a 4-0 Bucs team. See you guys later.